Now behind me is a car I've really been looking forward to driving because it's a new Maserati Ghibli. And this is the model that's going to kickstart Maserati's revolution to sell 50,000 cars a year. Where it's going to work, I don't know. It all hinges really on this car because this is going to be the biggest seller. They're talking about 25,000 sales for this model. And it's we've seen the Quattroporte. It's based on the new Quattroporte, but it's shrunken. It's still a big car. It's around 5 meters long, just under, a few millimeters under 5 meters. So this is competing with Jaguar XF and the new sort of Mercedes CLS. There's a sort of new class sort of coming out. Audi A7 and BMW have got their Grand Coupe. This is Maserati's try. Really fascinating car. Comes with 3 engine options. You've got this particular model is the standard, if you can call it a standard, Ghibli. So this has got a twin turbo V6 petrol engine, 330 horsepower. Then there's a diesel. For the very first time, Maserati are going to have a diesel in their 99-year history. That's 275 horsepower. I'm going to try that later on today. And then sitting at the top of the range is the Ghibli S. 410 horsepower instead of 330 here, and 550 newton meters instead of 500 newton meters for this standard one. But anyway, this is the one I think is quite an intriguing model because the pricing's interesting as well. The diesel in the UK just over 48,000. This one in the UK, standard Ghibli, 52,000, with a few options, probably 55. But then the Ghibli S is actually 63,000, so it's quite a jump if you really, you're a horsepower junkie and you want the S. I'm going to take you around this car because it's a brand new model, and it's so exciting when you actually get to review a car that's not just an evolution of another one. This is a brand new car. Now I know looks are subjective, but I think that's a really good aggressive front. I wasn't too sure about the Ghibli to begin with. We've had such beautiful cars from Maserati in the past. We've had the Gran Turismo that just was drippingly elegant, and then we saw the Quattroporte, and it wasn't quite as special as we wanted it to be. I felt the new one. There was a presence with the old one, a sort of delicate Pininfarina touch that was slightly lacking with the new Quattroporte. But I think this has got some of that sort of Maserati magic back. Some of the bits I really like are the way it's still quite a long wheelbase, but you come round to the rear and it's still got that sort of haunch. You can see that line sort of over the rear wheel arch, and then it suddenly finishes at the tail. It's quite a short tail, but that flowing sort of back screen and the short boot lid, I think that looks really good. The doors are all frameless, so that's, lightens the side load. And the wheels, they're not quite as elegant as some other designs we've seen, but I'm sure the catalogue will grow in time. And I particularly like this line just on the headlight where it sort of slashes down into the grille. I think that's a really nice, elegant touch that I've not seen on a car before. Then inside, it just seems better resolved, the interior, than it was on the Quattroporte. I didn't like where the screen sat on the Quattroporte. This one looks much more elegant. It sort of fits, and it's just a clean look. There's still the good old clock there sitting in the middle of the dash, but it's not quite as prominent as it has been in the past. Really nice blue dials, simple dials, good readouts, a wheel that seems to work. And I just love these. I've been driving it all morning, and this has got this is aluminium paddles, and they pick up the air conditioning, so they're always really cool to touch. So just a classy little look feature. They are clean in the middle, electric handbrake on this model, just nicely trimmed. And then in the back, yes, it's a little tighter than the Quattroporte, but it's still very elegant, plenty of room for 4 people. They say it's a 5-seater, but 4 will be very comfortable back here. And another little surprise is if I tug on this, the seats fold down, so you've actually got access to the rear boot should you need it if you've had a little trip down to IKEA or something. So really nicely done. And there we go. And at least I can see the mechanicals of this engine, so I'm not going to rip off the covers on this one. So it's a brand new V6 developed at Ferrari with the Maserati team. There's little hints that it will be closely related to a Ferrari engine in the future, but at the moment it's pure Maserati, twin turbo as I say, quad cam, variable cam timing, puts out 330 horsepower from its 3 litres. You've got to think this same engine then is in the Ghibli S at 410 horsepower. That's a lot of horsepower from a 3 litre lump. Very responsive. We'll see, we'll get out on the road in a minute, but just the other things I just want to show you is these aluminium castings here. So this isn't a press body, this is actual cast aluminium for the suspension struts. And being a V6, it's just a bit further back in the chassis with the quattroporte, new quattroporte with a V8. It just seemed to be overhanging, felt quite nose heavy when you drove it. So I'm expecting good things from this car. On the Ghibli, the keyless go is now an option. It's a really elegant key actually. I've got it hidden in here, but I don't know, it looks quite a really nice key. That it's this sort of new design that's sort of carried onto the steering wheel. I think it looks really cool. It's an 8-speed gearbox on this car. I've got to set that, I think, to get the map up. There we go. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to look at the map. Completely new electronics here, and the sat nav. Seems to work pretty well actually. Now, 8-speed gearbox as I was saying, control here. One of the things I've found is it's quite tricky just to hit reverse. When you want reverse, you sort of go into park or to neutral. It's not quite as easy as you want it to be. This is also an option. It's all part of a convenience pack as they call it. It's about 2,500. Down here I've got adjustable dampers. I've got 2-stage dampers. You can have passive dampers, just standard dampers if you want, but actually I think this works pretty well. I haven't been a fan of their Skyhook on previous Maseratis, but this one seems to work better. Skyhook sort of struggled when it was in normal mode in the past. It sort of just felt a bit loose. This one doesn't, and then it does tighten up when you put it into stiffer dampers obviously. If I can select Sport, I get a bit more noise in the coming from the exhaust. I've got slightly quicker gear changes. I've got something called ICE here. I don't want to know anything about that. That's all about for increased economy. I don't think that's what this car is all about. You immediately feel this is quite a mature car. It has that hint of luxury about it. Isn't that a great noise? Already you can hear the exhaust coming through, and that's quite hard to do with a turbo car. Beautifully judged on this car. This that exhaust sound, that rich burble that you sort of expect from Maserati. It does feel a more expensive car than the price list might suggest, 53,000. Yes, it's quite expensive, but for Maserati, that's quite a low price. To like it, it feels special, which is what I want a Maserati to feel. And it has this, you just know it's been made by a sporting manufacturer. It's not a, when you get into 5 Series, there's a bit of seriousness about it, and although they can do sporting saloons very well, the current crop of BMWs don't quite give you that feeling that they're made for another job. They're meant to be a bit sensible for my book. This one just feels a bit nutty. It's lovely with the traction control off. It's just a really controllable chassis. There's no surprises. I'm on optional 19-inch wheels on this one, and there's a fair amount of grip, but it just feels much more balanced than I was expecting. So I'm enjoying the Maserati Ghibli a lot more than I expected. Next car, I'm going to try the diesel. Can Maserati really make a sporting diesel? Should they be making a diesel? Well, let's go and find out. It's quite fun, this Ghibli diesel, because they don't tell you it's a diesel. On the engine, no sign of diesel. Yeah, there's no D badge. and the 4 pipes remain. The only giveaway is actually in here. They have to put it there. Diesel. Everything looks the same. Set the red line at 4,500. That doesn't look very Maserati-like. Start it up. And off we go. In a diesel Maserati. Who would have thought? Definite diesel pulling away. It's quite rapid. Well, I spent a bit more time in the Ghibli diesel. It still sounds wrong saying Maserati diesel, but I suppose we'll get used to it. Oh, it's a good idea. It's how they're going to get volume. You have to do diesel in Europe. And this first attempt at it, yeah, 275 horsepower V6, 600 Newton meters torque, and it's that torque that I'm feeling with this car. It is punchier than the petrol car, the standard Ghibli, out of corners and things, but it never really lights up at the top end. Oh, it's compromised by being a diesel, so there's nothing new, but the sort of lack of revs. I was expecting a bit more of a voice from the cell from Maserati. That, funny enough, you know, it does have a really quite a nice exhaust tone outside. I love the way you can't spot that this is actually the diesel Ghibli from the outside. From the inside, you can tell. Yeah, just every now and then, I've got the traction off, but it's 600 Newton meters. Does really push. It's very definitely rear-wheel drive, this car. It's just that thrum, isn't it? It's just not an attractive sound. But if you've lived with the petrol Ghibli, you're going to be frustrated by having the diesel. Oh, it's a tricky one. Maserati Ghibli has turned out to be a better car than I had hoped for. I thought after experiencing the new Quattroporte that Maserati going a little soft, but this does feel like a great new addition to the sports saloon sort of market. But you're going to want the petrol one. I don't think they're going to be as economical as Maserati claim either in real world, because actually it's quite a nice chassis and you're going to want to push it and you're encouraged to drive it. The looks, I'm not completely sold, but it's actually, if you look at its rivals, it's really quite a good looking car. I think it's very well trimmed inside. I think it has a more expensive feel than its price list would suggest. It's unfortunate the really top model, the S, the 410 horsepower, I think is going to be a stormer, but it's the one model they haven't got on the launch, unfortunately. They've got the four-wheel drive version that all left-hand drive markets are going to get. So we'll have to say for the UK, we'll have to save that until we get some right-hand drive, two-wheel drive top models in. But yeah, I quite like it. I quite like the Ghibli. Will it put Maserati back on the map? Oh, it's a tough call. It deserves to. I can see it being really popular, the petrol models abroad. Will this diesel sell in the UK? I think they just need to make it a little bit better to make it a no-brainer. At the moment it's a 3.5, 4-star car. Hasn't got quite the star quality I was hoping for. Great car though, and it's great to have Maserati back. If you've got a petrol card and someone else is paying for the petrol, get a petrol one. If you're paying for the fuel, well, I can understand if you go for the diesel, but you're missing out. You're missing out the spark of the petrol. So do whatever you can. And if you're going to get a Ghibli, get a petrol.